Welcome to episode 18 of the Irish Fitness Podcast. This episode is brought to you by Fitter, a fantastic resource for any online coaches and athletes. It's basically a platform where online coaches can interact with their athletes. They can send them videos, they can send their program, and they can also take payments as well. So it's an umbrella platform for online coaches. Fantastic resource. We would highly recommend it. If you are an online coach, check out fitter.training. Shane, we had Gurf on this week. Fantastic athlete and a really good coach, I think, as well. So on this episode, guys, if you haven't heard of Sika Strength yet, we have to go check that out. They're an online program, Shane, out there. They have a podcast also.
Yeah, they kind of do a broad range of things now. So two of the boys, Gurf and Dara, run the podcast, and they also run their own program and do seminars and that kind of stuff. We're actually having them down here. When is it? A few months' time?
It is the 19th of April,
yeah,
so we're going to get them down. We're going to have a Sika Strength seminar.
Yeah.
So the guys not only do online coaches and stuff like that, shout out to Dara and Owen. They do. They also do their programs online, but they have their podcast and they travel around and they do seminars. So if you're interested in getting a seminar with Sika Strength, contact Sika Strength. Probably IG was the best way, he said, didn't he?
Yeah. Say his own Instagram, I think, as well. I think Gurfling on Instagram.
Yeah, Gurfling on Instagram. Check it out, lads. Some unreal lifts. I think he has like a 290 back squat. He's clean and jerk close to 200, I believe, maybe 190 or something like that. And I think he snatched like 150 or 60, something bizarre like that anyway.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy.
Unreal numbers. And he was a really interesting dude as well, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. He was a great chat because you could kind of ask him anything and he'd have an answer, and he'd kind of give you a good answer too. Because I don't know, when you have a podcast, I suppose you have to be able to talk about anything.
Yes.
And he definitely has that kind of talent. And I thought it was great getting his opinion on what he thinks of CrossFit, how weightlifting plays into CrossFit, and all that type of stuff as well.
Yeah. Very, really cool dude. So up after the break, we have Eoin Murphy, aka Gurfling, aka the Irish Fridge. Welcome to episode 18 of the Irish Fitness Podcast. On today's show, we have one of Ireland's top weightlifting coaches, Eoin Murphy, aka Gurf, aka the Fridge. How are we doing, Eoin? How are you, buddy?
All good. How are you guys?
I'm good. Really appreciate you coming on today. We were trying to get you on there yesterday, but it was a little bit of a miscommunication. So it's Sunday morning now at Sunday morning at 9:30 in the morning. So we really appreciate you getting up early and coming on. I know most people like their Sundays to themselves, but we're going to try and have a nice chat now about all things weightlifting and CrossFit and stuff like that. So really appreciate you coming on.
No problem.
Excellent. So, Gurf, you are the one of the coaches of Sika Strength, an online weightlifting program for anyone that doesn't know. You also have your podcast. Could you tell us a little bit about your background into how you got into weightlifting, how you got into training? I know that you had a long stint in martial arts as a kid as well. I see your flexibility is still there from them days as well. Could you give us a little rundown on your whole athletic career so far, and then maybe your introduction into weightlifting?
So I started Taekwondo when I was 5 or 6, I think. Someone started up in the local kind of community hall, and I just had been watching a load of fucking Bruce Lee films like Enter the Dragon and Fist of Fury and all that crap.
Brilliant.
And it just struck something in me, so I did that until I was 12. I finished with a black belt when I was 12 years old, and then I got kind of, obviously all along I'd been playing like Gaelic football and stuff like that, and I just kind of, I dropped the martial arts for a little bit, and then I just didn't go back for a couple of years, and I was kind of playing Gaelic football, and I was kind of for another 3 or 4 years until I was about 16, and I just did not enjoy football at all. I just played it because there was nothing else to do, and it was just kind of, as like anyone from Ireland would listening would know, that it's just a thing you do if you're kind of a young teenager in Ireland.
Yes.
And then I have 3 older brothers, and my oldest brother he competed in strongman. Okay. So I kind of, he was living in the UK, and he came back, and he took me to the gym one day with him, and I was like, oh, this is kind of interesting, you know. And then I suppose for another year and a half, I just did kind of general strength training, kind of like strict press kind of kettlebells. It was kind of like this is nearly CrossFit was barely on the scene, so those kind of used to call like metabolic conditioning, if you remember, people used to call that kind of crap.
Yep.
And obviously my football got a lot better, and I was like, Jesus, strength training, it does something, like there's kind of tangible benefits to it. So then around the year after that, I became aware of Olympic weightlifting as a sport. And I was like, there wasn't that many YouTube videos or there was much material on it, but it was something that I was like, geez, that looks really fucking cool. So I was just going to college, and I was coming to UL, and UL happened to have probably the best club at the time, and there was a good few members there. And after I knew they had a really good gym, I knew they had like good equipment for it, and I was like, it's as good as, like, I was going to UL anyway, so I was kind of hoping I could make a segue into weightlifting. And then I met Carl Bird and Paulie Lillis, all people, like, I met those. Carl started coaching me, and then that was eight and a half years ago now.
That was
that
was the golden years in UL, wasn't it? When Paulie and Carl Bird, that's legendary stuff in kind of Irish weightlifting.
Absolutely. Holly came in a few years later with her.
Yeah, shout out to Paulie and Holly.
So I just kind of kept competing through weightlifting. I think after year 2 or 3, I went to European Juniors in Estonia, and then 2 years later went to European Seniors in 2015. And so that year in 2015, the same shoulder got injured twice, fairly not severely, but I basically couldn't put it into overhead for about 2 months in 2 separate periods. So about 4 months of the year, I couldn't put a barbell overhead. So I did the European qualifiers, I did European seniors, I set national records, total clean and jerk, and then shortly after I kept training because nationals were coming up soon. Then I injured my shoulder. Still, like a week before nationals, I was able to lift a bar overhead, and I won nationals that year again.
Wow.
And then did Celtic Nations that year. And at this point, I got basically, after that, if you listen to the podcast, people know, like, I got basically legitimate overtraining syndrome. I was just absolutely fucked. Like, I got really, really severe kind of, like, I'd be waking up in the middle of the night and I'd be like clenching, like be white knuckling, like, cause you're just wide awake randomly. One day I got like really sick for like 4 or 5 days. I lost a load of weight. I was like, I could feel I was just fatigued all the time. I was I was so fatigued. And I took a break. I was saying I'll go back, and maybe I was finished college this time, so I just wanted to kind of get going in my career, see what I was going to do. Like, obviously weightlifting, there's not much funding, very little funding really at the moment. And I want to make a career, just going to get started after college. And so I took a break for a while. In my head, I planned to go back, but then after that, I just kind of, at some point over the course of the years, I just didn't. It's not something I wanted to do again. Like, it just became a decision of resources, what competition would require, what would it take, say, to get to 2020, say Tokyo would have been it would have been a better age for me if I was going to do that. Like, and then looking at resources, the chances of getting there, the risk and payoff to using my time, money, holidays from work, stuff like that. It just didn't seem like something that it didn't seem like it was going to be worth the effort in some ways, I suppose. So I knew Dara Dara's the co-owner of Sika Strength with me, and we started.
Shout out to Dara.
We kind of had an idea. So we originally started as a supplement. So we were taught we were going to do ZMA. Because it was one supplement, and then we were going to do ketones, and we'd actually made a fairly far segue into ketones. We'd ordered some samples from the supplier and stuff, and we were looking at what would cost batches, and then we were kind of avoiding the coaching thing, although both of us would have had experience coaching. Darren had done an undergrad in sports science, and he's doing masters in sports psychology, and we kind of, at some point, we just made the decision that we probably should do some kind of coaching, some kind of programming. And so really, we didn't want to be stuck with just weightlifting, because it wasn't something, like, weightlifting is nice to coach, and it's also a small market though, and it's not something, like, our scope of interest would be much greater than just weightlifting, like any kind of strength training, any kind of performance, any kind of athlete who needs to get help really with kind of increasing their strength or performance or just kind of that kind of stuff is something we have massive interest in. So after a while we just started selling that, obviously, and then we have stuff like if you've seen in our page, was the Road to Anywhere back squat program. I think we're probably close to 300 or 400 people who've done that program now over the last year.
Brilliant.
And so like there's people, adding like 35 kilos to their back squat in 8 weeks and stuff, and that was something, that wasn't actually something was one of the initial ideas. It was just something we kind of did in a whim one day. And obviously, as you know, back squats it's kind of really heavily infiltrated gym culture now, as much as like bench rooms, and people just love back squats.
Yeah, it's not what did you bench anymore. It's what can you squat, isn't it?
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. It's crazy the change, like, because it really was what can you bench before, but now people are like, oh, the back squat is a thing as much as benching,
Yes.
And then one day we just kind of, Gary Vaynerchuk, I don't know if you know, he's like some CEO kind of, his business voice and stuff, but he was
motivational guy. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Gary V. Yes,
Gary
yes.
V.
Yeah, he's very, very useful. A lot of great information, and he talked about everyone should have a podcast, YouTube, or whatever. So we were looking at, we kind of thought about doing a podcast, and people had said to us we should do one. But we were kind of like, no one's going to listen to us for like an hour and a half at the time. So, but one day, Dara literally just bought the equipment, and we started this. I think it was March last year, and I think we're closing in on maybe nearly 100,000 listens over the course of maybe 40 episodes. So it's getting good. So
unreal. I love it, man. I love listening to your stuff. I went back right to the very start there months ago. I tried a month of your program, but I had to do something else with the gym. We all decided to get on the same program, as I was saying to you, and it's an important part. But I think if I was just a lifter on my own or a CrossFitter, I would definitely go down the route with you. I loved the few weeks that I did do. As I said to you, we kind of decided as a group in the gym that we all had to get on the same program, so we switched on to that. But from what I did do, it was excellent. I love the way in your program that you strip it right back. Like, I gave you some numbers and I gave you some totals I wanted to hit by October, and you were able to bring me right back to the start and focus on the technique side of things. And I think CrossFitters are missing that. We're missing about, okay, if you want to get somewhere, you have to start at the bottom of the mountain if you want to get to the top of the mountain. You can't just get a helicopter halfway up and then fucking climb the rest, you know what I mean? It's literally about going right back to the start. Is that something that you see that people want to lift heavier or whatever in the program?
Yeah, it is. It is hard for people to see, kind of like I said, I've lifted for 8.5 years, and I'm still, I would say, my grasp on the list would be only barely coming into fruition now. Like, it's only something that I'm really understanding. So when you say to people, saying we do in 4-week blocks, you're like, in 6 months you'll see big improvements. But 6 months, when you're looking at it for an online program, you're kind of hoping for a give and take. So like with the back squat program, it's really fast progress. 8 weeks, you had 20, 30 kilos to your back squat. But unfortunately, weightlifting, it just does not work like that.
No.
So, like, I suppose in terms of CrossFit, like, we have a strength for CrossFit, strength for fitness athletes, basically. You can't use the word CrossFit because the trademark is heavy. Yeah. So that's basically for people who want to do a bit of weightlifting, benching or whatever, squatting, deadlifts, all kind of strength for CrossFit. But there is a lot of technique in that. But you see, I suppose the problem with athletes doing CrossFit are kind of amateur athletes. They see a lot of the better CrossFit athletes snatching like 130, 135, like, and they do some impressive weights, but sometimes the technique is, I wouldn't say rough, but it's not as pretty as, say, weightlifters doing the same weights would do. So I think there might be kind of a cultural thing where it's a little bit, well, if I train hard enough, I will end up lifting the weights, I'll get there eventually. But obviously a lot of, CrossFit they are talented athletes doing that, so they can kind of get away with that. There's a lot of reasons they can do that. But for a lot of the general clients of CrossFit need more of a basic approach. Or like amateur weightlifters who do the program don't have any coaches, so they have basically either very little technique, or worse again, they might have spent a year lifting by themselves, and then they've ingrained kind of poor movement patterns, which is worse again. It's easier to have someone brand new because it's easier to teach them. So that's what a lot of the program is. The first few months basically are just trying to fix patterns. Like, everyone makes the same mistake. Like, I'm sure you see it over the years. Like, how long are you open now in Cross the Waterford?
I started coaching people in my parents' garage in 2010. So our 10th birthday is actually in 2 months' time, And like you said, it's mostly, it's like most people make nearly all the same mistakes. You know what I mean? They're very common. It's a natural thing to do to you know, bend the arms early or swing the bar or whatever it is. You know what I mean? So you'll see most of the same stuff. I'm sure you've seen the same over the years as well.
Yeah, so like everyone makes the same mistakes. Like no one's really at the beginning for the first years. No one's a snowflake, you know. And obviously, it's all amateurs like we deal with in terms of the weightlifting side of things. Like so, we have other maybe kind of higher level athletes in like kind of real athletes. If you listen to the podcast, as we call them. So like, that's obviously not an insult to anyone. That's just a way of segregating them.
I completely understand your take on that, and I absolutely understand your the way you differentiate between the two. You know, that's completely understand, and the way you explain it as well is fantastic. So when you say that, I get you.
Like so, for weightlifters, there is a lot of like a base to build up. You know, but obviously then with real athletes, there's kind of it's just don't get hurt, and then do a little bit of strength work, and then just keep you strong for your field work or your gym work or if you're MMA or whatever like that. You know, that kind of stuff.
Yes.
But for the weightlifting, it's very much just people are making the same mistakes. It's not. It's a very affordable for weightlifting, and obviously a lot of people can afford, you know, one-to-one coaching or online programming. A lot of those are in the hundreds. So it was just the weightlifting is just something we kind of wanted to get. Would hit a lot of people who either didn't want to pay for programming or could afford to pay for like one-to-one individual programming, but still make progress in the lifts. And obviously we still give like feedback to people with videos and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it's just something kind of, and people are very happy with it. People are doing well in it, so it's something we are very happy with in terms of weightlifting. And obviously, like we do, like we have a powerlifting program. We've just been anything in the gym basically is what we want to help people with. Like
you seem to have a massive, broad range of expertise across. Like I suppose physical training is physical training, and when you're in as deep as ye are, then you can apply that to different strength and conditioning disciplines like powerlifting and stuff. I was delighted to see. I saw you do the yourself and Dara do the powerlifting competition there recently.
Oh yeah.
That was great.
Yeah, that was literally just to have done a powerlifting competition. So you know, when you're coaching powerlifting athletes, you have a better understanding of what they're doing, because it's easy, as you know yourself. Like competition is so different from training. Like it is just doing, let's say, doing squat, bench, and deadlift the same day in the gym. It's just not the same thing as doing it in competition with everyone. You know, like we learned some things. Like if you listen to that. You know, in weightlifting, it just goes by weight on the bar. But in CrossFit, in powerlifting, we had no idea. But it actually goes. Everyone does a first attempt, second attempt, third attempt, and it's a totally different aspect. It's like it really changes the dynamic of how you set up your first attempts, second attempts, and even how you would practice training. You know, to get used to spending a long time doing heavy attempts, which is not something you would do in weightlifting. Like in weightlifting, you might spend maximum 2 to 3 minutes between heavy attempts if you go for singles.
Yeah.
So it's just something that we just needed to do it just to get a better understanding for people who do powerlifting, so we can kind of either change the program a little bit towards what they're doing at, or we can give them advice when someone does do a competition. You know?
I thought it was a great idea. The fact that again that you are programming for powerlifting athletes, then you need to know exactly not just about the actual weights, but the feel of the competition and stuff like that as well. So you could take that back to your lifters and say, look lads, this is what we did on the day, this is what I changed, this is how I'd warm up, this is how I cool down for the next lift and all that kind of stuff. So it was really cool to see that kind of stuff. When you were training, Gurf, full time, I know you're still training full time, but at a competitive level, say an international level, what would a typical week look like for you, training week, in terms of sessions? Did you do the double sessions? How long would each session take, and what could you give us like a kind of a bones program for a high level competitive weightlifter?
So when I would have been competing internationally, say back in 2015, I would have still been. That would have been less than 4 years of weightlifting. So in reality, my program looked a lot like the Sika Strength Weightlifting program looks like. A lot of complexes, like positional pulls and stuff like that. Moderate, like low frequency squatting, maybe 2-3 times a week. Whereas now, at the moment, I would train up to 9 times a week. But it's literally, at the moment, I don't even back squat anymore. So all I do at the moment is literally snatch, clean jerk, front squat, and then I do just some RDLs, basically stiff-legged deadlifts, because
Why
I kind
why
of
wouldn't
neglect
you
my
back
hamstring over
squat
the
anymore?
years.
Sorry, why wouldn't you back squat anymore, Owen? Is that just because you feel like you've reached a level where you don't need to, like in terms of strength?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. So, like a 290 back squat and weightlifting for basically everyone bar super heavyweight is more than enough. Like it's
Okay.
massively in excess of what you need. Like
Yeah.
I would benefit nothing by trying to increase my back squat. Obviously, it takes a lot of resources from your kind of mental capacity training, recovery, physical time you even spend training, trying to improve that back squat for basically there'll be no benefit to me whatsoever.
Yeah.
And like maintaining my back squat. So I would do say if I'm just trying to maintain it at the moment, I would do sets of maybe 200 to 220, which
Ooh.
isn't very productive. So it's easier just to do front squats more often. I just basically front squat every day now,
Wait,
and I
every
keep
day.
them at 100% of what my yeah
Every day, and is it
yeah.
like so your typical training session for you now, it starts off with probably some
Yeah.
kind of either snatch or cleanage or both, does it?
So basically, it would be just snatch. It's basically go snatch day, and then clean jerk day. So two snatch focus days, then a clean jerk day. So obviously the clean jerk is heavier, it's a bit more fatiguing, so you do it less frequently. But then, so weekdays, it's either just one snatch and then a little bit of front squats. It's very low volume front squats. It might be literally 5 or 6 sets of singles up to just 100% of whatever I clean jerk recently. So 190
Okay.
or 185 or whatever. And then clean jerks would be singles. It's all singles. That's what I'm doing at the moment.
Okay.
I'm kind of at that point in my career where I don't need much variation anymore. I need to just do more lifts and as much
Yeah.
as I can. Basically, you want to do as much snatch clean jerk as you can until you can recover, basically, and then pull it back a little bit.
I heard you talking about that on the podcast. You said, like, you've got to a point, I suppose, with the technique, because you've been lifting 8.5 years, that doing all the variations and stuff is not as optimal, we'll say, as going for just the lift themselves. You will become more
Yeah,
proficient at the lifts
absolutely.
themselves and stronger at them by just doing them. You don't need to be going through a lot of positioning work or whatever kind of stuff when you're later on in it. Yeah, that's cool, man. And
Yeah, absolutely.
how many days a week do you train now? Is it 5 days or 6 days?
Uh, 7 days a week, and
7 days a week.
then on Saturdays and Sundays it's two sessions, so two kind of 1 hour sessions. Sometimes if I'm feeling kind of fresh, I'll do 3 snatch sessions and maybe 2 to 3 clean jerk sessions on the weekend, but
Right.
like they'll last 40 minutes.
Okay.
So literally come in, I'll do I'll work up to 90% clean jerk and I'll do 2 waves, so I'll work back down and up again, and then literally I'll go home, do whatever, come back 2 hours later, and then if I feel like I need it, I'll do it again 2 hours later again.
Brilliant. Yeah. And how many hours would you think that you're covering over the week then, if you put a rough estimate on it?
12 to 15 I'd say would probably be close to what I would be getting of actual training time.
You're still training quite high volume then. And
Oh yeah.
in terms of recovery, Garth, what would you do? What's your kind of typical?
Sleep.
Do you
Sleep.
focus on it? Just sleep.
100%.
How,
Sleep is just
sleep is king.
absolutely sleep. Just
Yeah,
number one.
absolutely, man.
That
I
is
100% agree. 100% agree. How many hours would you optimally get a night?
if I can, I'm always 7.5 is probably the average I get, and then
Okay.
if I get a nap of an hour extra a day, I try to take it. Usually I don't, but if I can, like yesterday, I like because Fanula's away, I got a 2 hour nap in.
Hey,
Fair enough, not bad.
shout out to
It's
Finola.
it's so important. Sleep is like
Yeah.
number one. I would take good sleep over poor nutrition any day. Like sleep is just
agree with that.
you're totally lost without it. And I think a lot of people, obviously, in this current kind of climate, it's like it's not something people focus on enough. Like it's like even for long term health. So like, if you forget about training, like your health into your 60s, 70s, 80s, like sleep is the number one. Anything you need, sleep is just can't stress that enough. Sleep is the first thing I look at on anyone.
100%. I agree. I recently read Why We Sleep. It's a new book out. I listened to it on audio, and your man goes
Is
into
that
it.
Matthew Walker?
It could be, yeah, it could be the studies
Yeah.
on it and all that kind of stuff, and it was absolutely fascinating. Like you said, I would nearly prefer to sleep well, do 1 day's training a week, and then eat like a pig, rather than do a load of training and not sleep well. You know what I mean? The detail he went
Absolutely.
into with all the studies and how it affects, even if it's tied to like ADHD in kids and Alzheimer's in older people, and there's a million different things. We've actually now with our athletes on our program, we're getting them to track their sleep. So what we do is
okay.
we post our workouts, and we also, now some of them do it, some of them don't, but we post our sleep from the night before
Yeah,
as
if you
well.
saw some of my sleep.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, so you know the way I have,
Yeah.
I don't know if you've heard of the Whoop strap, have you?
Oh, yeah, I've heard of it. Yeah. Any good?
Oh, it's brilliant, man. I love it. I've been
Yeah.
using it now for the last 4 months, and every night is like a competition to sleep well. Do you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
you know the way you need 9 hours of bed to get 8 hours sleep, basically. So this tells me on the app, okay, Tom, if you want to set your alarm for 7 o'clock, you need to get to bed by 9:47 or whatever it is, and it monitors
I like
your HRV and all that kind of stuff. But the main thing is the sleep thing, and I'm trying to get all the athletes into it now as well. All the people we have competing here and stuff, and some of them are doing it or some are not. But I 100% agree, man. Sleep is the absolute king of everything. And you talked about your ZMAs as well. Do you take them every day to help you sleep?
So actually, luckily I'm a very good sleeper. I suppose when I train a lot, work a lot, I do a lot of things. Most days I'm wrecked by the time I get to bed. I do stop caffeine by 12 o'clock or half 12 most days.
That's a good one.
So,
You always talk about that, yeah.
that really made a difference actually, because recently I would have had one at half 4, and it would have been the recommendation before was stop at 5 or 6 hours before I go to bed. But I think now it's like something like 12 hours or 12 to 14 hours before I go to bed. Which is basically most people would have to stop at 9 or 10. So I have a cup at like 9 and 12 o'clock, and it actually does make a difference how fast I get to sleep a little bit. But in general, I do take magnesium and zinc if I have it, but I kind of blessed in regard that I usually have no trouble sleeping.
That's a good one. And would you recommend any other kind of forms of recovery? Do you mess around with sauna or anything like that, or have you ever tried cryo or massages or whatnot?
I've tried all of them. I do like heat, so maybe a really hot bath sometimes if I feel like I need it. Massages would be if I have a specific issue, if I have something if something's niggling me. I suppose they're all kind of the like cherry on the cake. They're all kind of nice to haves, but at the end of the day, they're not going to make or break. You know, if you don't have good nutrition, good sleep, and a good program, they'll basically be useless. You know, they'll do nothing for you.
They're the extra kind of 1 or 2% really, aren't they? The other ones are the big ones, like the training, say 40% for your sleep, 20% for your training, and 20% for your nutrition, or 30-30 even, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like you're looking like they're nice to have, and if you have the time and resources to do those kind of things, then I would definitely, if you find the help, then I would say all for it. They won't have any kind of negative effects. The only thing, the sauna, like as people know, like sauna can leave you quite fatigued. So it's kind of like I wouldn't be doing it 5-6 days a week, but if you have an off day the day after and you do it the evening before, then I would think that'd be a good idea. There's a lot of benefits to sauna like that, and like if anyone listens to Joe Rogan, you never shuts up about it.
The heat shock proteins from Dr. Rhonda Patrick.
Yeah, she's very good actually.
She's a legend. She's a legend. Shout out to Dr. Rhonda Patrick.
She's watching this.
You should try and get her on.
Yeah, I might. You know something? I might reach out to her. I wonder, is she on
yeah.
Instagram, Shane?
Probably is, yeah.
She might be on Instagram.
Get a hold of her.
She is, yeah.
That would be unreal.
That would be the
man.
most educated person.
That's a good idea. I'll give you hook us up, man. You have 32,000 followers.
You message her.
You reach out. We only have 1,000 followers. You have 32k. So if you reach out to her, say, hey, my buddy Tom and Shane want to talk to you.
If you get on our list, but
Yeah,
she's very good, but
100%.
She talks a lot about that stuff. You know, she talks about like a reduced number of heart attacks, people if you go multiple times a week, you know, stuff like that. Like, so it does have benefits, but it also, if you're an athlete, like say you're a CrossFitter, you're obviously sweating an awful lot. Like if you're training, if you're like a competitive CrossFitter, you're potentially training maybe multiple times a day or a lot during the week. So you kind of leech on the minerals and stuff like that. And if you're not kind of on point with nutrition and kind of replenishing those things, it kind of could be maladaptive in some ways.
Yeah. Shane, do you want to ask about
Yeah, so Garth, it's kind of hard to have you on here and not ask you about CrossFit. Obviously, everyone we usually have on this podcast, I know we're only a new podcast, but are kind of that CrossFit background, athlete, coach, affiliate owner, whatever you want to call it. What's your opinion on CrossFit? And a second part to that question is, you hear people say a lot of the time, I'm not sure if I really agree with it, but that CrossFit revived weightlifting. Weightlifting was kind of dying sport over the last few years, say 20 years. And CrossFit kind of brought that back.
I'm a huge fan of CrossFit. I think CrossFit is like... Oh, absolutely. Like Tom knows. Like I was out in his gym in
Yeah.
I can't remember what year.
It was
Like,
it was like
115 was the PB. Like it's
yes,
just
yes,
like
yes. Go ahead, sorry.
like, but like CrossFit is fantastic. Like I really like the amount of gyms. So when I started weightlifting, there was, I think CrossFit Mallow was like one of the two gyms in Munster with bumper plates. Like there was CrossFit Mallow, and then there. Oh no, actually Tom would have been there as well at the time when I started. So Tom, CrossFit Mallow, and UL weightlifting would have been basically three places with bumper plates and bars that you could do some kind of weightlifting on, which was. And now, like, how many? There's literally probably in the hundreds of gyms
Yeah, for sure.
in Munster alone with bumpers, and it's almost directly because of the rise in CrossFit. You know, that side of gym. Obviously, for someone who does weightlifting, that's fantastic. Like that kind of gym is huge. Like it exposed probably the biggest thing as well CrossFit did. So obviously for weightlifting, it really helped kind of the kind of social media aspect. People like CrossFit are fantastic at social media. It's just, like the positive kind of aspects of social media from CrossFitters is phenomenal. Like if you look at all the kind of the elite CrossFitters, they're always sharing posts with each other or commenting on each other's stuff, and that kind of energy it kind of helps the weightlifting because like a weightlifter will put up a video and it might be 150 snatch or something, and a lot of people do CrossFit will like kind of comment on it and be like, that's amazing, and people don't kind of put the kind of significance on that because that kind of cultural shift, over the years really added up a lot. So a lot of people might have done a little bit of CrossFit and they're like, oh, I actually prefer weightlifting, and the more people that do it, the more people that see it, and it kind of had like kind of a parabolic effect. Like it really helped to rise with. And obviously then you've stuff like women in kind of gym culture is huge now, and women doing legitimate strength training, not just posting videos of like 8 different ways to train your glutes, like legitimately strong women. Like there's a woman in America, she's squatting like 275 and she competes in the IPF, like just crazy stuff, like that. So I'm all for CrossFit, all for it.
You're probably familiar with people like Steffi Cohen as well, who kind of like.
Oh, she's unbelievable.
Yeah, it kind of hurt your ego even looking at her Instagram, what she can deadlift.
I know,
So I think she was in CrossFit.
She used to do CrossFit, I think, didn't she?
I don't think it was like competitive, but it was like in a gym or whatever. Matty Rogers, another one I think, was in CrossFit for a while. She's one of the best women weightlifters there is as well. And then,
100%.
Garth, what do you think of like the CrossFit Games then? What do you think of that side of things rather than outside the gym walls?
Do you know what I used to really like watching was there was a fellow who did Behind the Games. I don't know, I can't think of his name. Sven,
yes, he does all the interviews and all that kind of stuff.
Savan Matassian, I can never say his name. Savan,
good dude.
He used to do Behind the Games, and I used to love watching those while I was like before training. When you're eating food before training, you're looking for something to watch. They used to be fantastic. I really enjoyed watching those. The games, I don't really enjoy watching the weightlifting segments because it's not what I want to see with weightlifting. But I do appreciate that it's in CrossFit, And like,
it hurts your eyes, I'd say, Gord, doesn't it?
Yeah, some of them I'd say.
What's that?
It hurts your eyes.
Oh, it's not the best. Sometimes you get someone like say Matt Fraser who did weightlifting, and he cleans 180 something there recently. Last year, wasn't it?
Yeah,
like that's
phenomenal.
That's really interesting to see. Like, and he had obviously a lot more. I think he did a little bit more, but like other than that, though, I think like the games are. I know Greg Glassford he's kind of trying to move away from the CrossFit kind of games aspect and go back to the health and kind of fitness kind of culture it used to be. But obviously, it's gone beyond them now. I think like the competitive sports. He has kind of, I think this was my opinion, he kind of has to acknowledge that was part of the making of CrossFit, like the competitive sport was what kind of really dragged it into legitimacy.
It was. We talked about that recently with Neil Laverty, from 80/20. And basically we were talking about like, first of all, it was kind of hardcore how it started off hardcore for everyone. Then the games kind of erupted. Around, it started off slower, but it erupted in probably 2010 and went into this kind of a spiral up the way. And then within kind of last year, when they pulled all the social media, they swung the opposite way then, and we had the old men lifting jugs of antifreeze in the sitting room and all this kind of business. Did you see them videos? Have you seen any of them?
No, I haven't seen that one.
Oh man.
What is that?
So about once every 2 weeks they'll release a home workout, it's called. And they have like an 85-year-old dude with a jug of antifreeze doing deadlifts with it, or putting it over his head or whatever in a sitting room. So they have this sitting room set. They have a couch there, and their man might be just doing air squats and lifting up jugs of antifreeze. Take a look on the CrossFit YouTube site. You'll get a kick out of it.
3 years ago, it used to be Matt Fraser and Noel Olsen.
Yeah, it went from like the games over this side to old women and old men in their 90s doing antifreeze workouts. So I think what me and Neil and Shane were saying is that they kind of had to find some kind of a middle ground. Because if you look in the gyms, there's no Matt Frasers in the gyms, and there's no 90-year-olds either. There's kind of all the people in between, say your 20-year-olds to your 60-year-olds, we'll say. That's the kind of majority of the people. So I think if they focus their effort on that would be good. They used to do a lot of documentaries on normal people.
Yeah,
they had the social media. But
I love the documentaries.
Yeah, they're good, man. They're funny.
The Netflix ones.
Yeah, the
Netflix
Netflix ones.
They're brilliant. They're very well produced.
But they used to do a lot of media on just regular people. You know, regular people's stories and stuff.
Yeah.
I think I would like to see them go back to that.
They still do a few of them. They sacked their whole media department.
Yeah, they did.
Basically,
they got rid of
a
everyone.
month or something that they got rid of everybody, and even those people didn't know. And some of those people were like Marston and Heber, the Buttery Bros, they're known as now, who make those documentaries on Netflix.
Oh yeah, they're good.
Yeah. So that's their films. They made one about Froning, which is a really good one.
Yeah, the Froning one was excellent.
The Redeemed and Dominant and all that. But then, like, I suppose without people like that making it, like, that do the filmmaking, they're just kind of left to their own devices. So they made a sitting room and got like
room.
They had like a guy running around the couch and then thrusters off the couch.
Did they do a running one as well?
Walk around the couch, do thrusters with a broomstick off the couch.
Yeah, the broomstick is another one that they use for the old people. So they were doing like overhead squats, and I think they did snatches with a broomstick as well. And I think the stuff was still on the end of the broom, wasn't it?
Yeah, but the good thing is now, even without CrossFit, the brand itself, even without them and the company, people like them went off on their own and made their own thing. So we have like a big surge in podcasts and
so there's a
like,
big
content,
social media insurgent now from independent people, I think, who are making their own movies and their own documentaries. So I like it for that.
Yeah. And it made it even better as with the sanctions as well. I know, Garth, you might have seen some of them. They're kind of all over the place, and I want to actually ask your opinion on like what you think volume training and weightlifting. Like you do a lot of volume, but you've been training for a lot of years. These sanctioned events now are about, I don't know, there's one like every weekend now for the next few months. So like most events will have like a max clean and jerk and a max snatch. So you might actually hit 3 events in a row, or like a lot of athletes will hit 2 in a row. Say they go back to back, they'll fight Australia and then they go to like, I don't know, the UK or something, they hit a sanctional. And they might max out their snatch twice. What do you think of that? And I suppose it's down to volume.
I suppose in terms of for them, they have to do what they have to do to get there, I suppose. So I think like it is part of CrossFit. Like weightlifting is a huge part of CrossFit. There's a lot of people, like it's rare you see people, like obviously you see in the gym now, people don't go and they're like, Joe, I really want to improve is my weighted pull-up, or they don't want to I want to get a PB in my 100-meter row. People are like, I want to, when they have free time in the gym, it's straight for strength lifts, max snatch, max clean jerk. People want to do it so I think it is something the sanctions just are playing to the crowd, I suppose, and people love seeing max lifts. Like that 182 clean that Max Fraser did, that would have been, like, that was seen massively. Like, that was all, when that happened, like, that was all over the kind of the social media circuit of, like, kind of CrossFit and stuff, And so those big lifts are, for sanctions events, I think, they'd be dumb not to put something big lifts in, because it is, like, it's an easy share, it's a big win for them. People like watching big lifts, it's easy to follow. And also, the athletes themselves like the opportunity to show off how good they are at doing the lifts, or not be, as the case may be, So I think it's rare, to be fair, gone are the days of absolutely horrendous lifts from CrossFit. I know that was a lot of gripe people had for the weightlifts, but like among the elite CrossFitters, technique might not be the greatest, but it's not often we see very ugly technique. It's just not great technique, which I'll settle for that. Like, I'll take mediocre technique with decent weights than like do you remember that video of the axle cleans, the kind of, the strongman years ago? There was a lot of women in CrossFit. Tom probably remembers it.
Yes, yeah.
Like, it's probably unfair to kind of still paint CrossFit with that brush, I think, in that regard. But I like the sanctions there. I think they're a good idea. It's like the more you get to see elite athletes compete, and the more you get to see them lift heavy weights or do whatever they're doing, I think it's better for the sport, it seems like.
I suppose it has, I think that has kind of a knock-on effect to weightlifting itself, because they might see, I don't know, they might see Matt Fraser as sanctional, and he might snatch 130 kilo, and then they're like, well, I want to see more weightlifting, and I want to try weightlifting now because Matt Fraser moves so well.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, and then that might make them show up at their college to join the weightlifting club or something like that. I think it definitely has a knock-on effect, and gone are the days where they're at the ranch and they're snatching, I don't know, 60 kilo terribly, you know, running off with the snatchers or whatever like that. So I think it definitely has a knock-on effect. And it's good to get your opinion on that as well, because you are like kind of Mr. Weightlifting here in our country for sure.
Yeah, 100%. I think to not focus on weightlifting these days would be detrimental if someone wants to be competitive in the sport of CrossFit. For those people, Gurv, you know, say Jimmy comes into the gym. Say he comes in and he says, right, I don't have much of an athletic background or whatever, but he starts to do the classes. He's reasonably talented. He's 30 years of age, we'll say. He starts saying, okay, there might be a competition I'd like to try next year. What kind of advice would you give the average CrossFitter on, you know, kind of getting into their training and focusing on weightlifting and stuff like that? Is there any key points that you could tell someone out there now that might aid them in their training?
I suppose it would be like the things we just, like the sleep aspect. A lot of people, you know, are like, say, Jimmy might have 2 kids or whatever at this stage, so he might, let's say he gets home from work, he gets his hour and a half in, he comes home, he spends time with his kids, whatever, let's say he preps his lunch, he's reasonably diligent with his nutrition. So by the time he gets to bed, let's say it might be, and then he wants like an hour, sit down and do something, you know, like just look at TikTok or watch fucking Watery Bros on YouTube,
Netflix and chill.
Like, literally, like that's it. But it's a weeknight. He has to get up at 5:30 the next morning, and he's got to bed at say 12 o'clock. That would be like, get the easy wins, like the big impact. Like if he starts going to bed an hour earlier, that is the first place I would start. And if you're like there, just eat like low-hanging fruit, like is where I would start with those kind of things. Like if he fixes his sleep a little bit, let's say he eats 2 breakfasts and like he's slightly overweight, let's say he eats it when he gets up and then he's got to work, maybe he could just either do a little bit of cardio in the morning or eliminate some calories, you know, depending on what his goals are, you know. And then I would say, when you get to the gym, the first place, and for most people, is probably mobility. As you know yourself, you see a lot of people, mobility is just something that's basically, it can be either, you see some people who are just randomly kind of perfect. They have great mobility in all ranges. So then they're kind of at a head start race. If you can't get into position, that's the problem. it's just look at the draw, like depending what they did, or the genetics, or what sport they did when they're younger. So mobility is probably the first thing I think for most people, those kind of UAs who come into the gym.
Yeah, the UAs, yeah. Could you give us just a little explanation of the word UAs? What episode was that again? I was listening to it again on the way.
That was only 4 or 5 episodes ago. It's onset of athleticism in adulthood.
Yes,
so basically,
yes. So guys, the Sika podcast is absolutely, Sika Strength podcast, absolutely fantastic. The lads did one specifically they called it UAS. So you coined the term UAS. So it's onset of adult athleticism. I got that right, didn't I? And it's basically what we see on a daily basis of our kind of standard client that is in maybe approaching 30 or gone past 30 or whatever, and they come in, they haven't done that for a while, they may have messed around with like GA sports. Whoops, where are you, girl? Hang on a second now. Can you still hear us, buddy? Yeah, hang on. On you just flipped off. Oh yeah.
Yep.
So basically, it's your average CrossFit client. So go finish what you were saying there, Garth, about that. About the
so basically, you would get all those kind of extrinsic things around the gym. So fix all those first.
Yes.
And then when you get to the gym, so like just, you know, a lot of times as well, I think there is a lot of programs out there, and obviously you alluded to earlier, there's a lot of people who probably could just do the class for a year or two and then be like, maybe I need to fix something. So like, trust that you're coming to the gym and that your coach has some idea why he's doing what he's doing. Like there's a reason some of this stuff's on board. And I think sometimes that is probably one of the problems with social media in terms of kind of UAs and competition and stuff like that, is they see, like very likely, if they did the class for a year, they could go to the competition and be totally fine. And like they have no idea what their weaknesses are, what their strengths are, because they're shit at everything, you know.
Yeah.
So I would say just do the class. Just do the classes for a year or more. There's no point. There's literally no reason to start specializing, like hiring a coach, like to do individual CrossFit programming or even weightlifting. To be honest, like any of that kind of stuff it's like if they want to do a cross condition a year's time from now when they start or whatever, I would say maybe they could do one extra session. But all they need to do really is say, what do I need to do? I have half an hour every Saturday morning or something before the class or after the class, and you'll be like, Jimmy, you're really shit at pull-ups. You can spend 15 minutes doing pull-ups,
Yes.
And I like just make it as simple as possible, because the likelihood is UAs have so much else going on in their life, and while they love training, you just don't need that extra stress to your training in the gym. Like very often it's overcomplicated. There's so much to do. So like in CrossFit, weightlifting, gymnastics, like cardio, swimming now, stuff like that. Like there's so much to cover that it's so easy to get lost. So I would say just do the classes, spend some time on your mobility when you go home. If it's shit, like doing any kind of mobility is better than no mobility. And I think a lot of people like the idea of doing mobility and they'll spend like 2 hours a week and then nothing for the rest of the week. Whereas if they just split up into 15-minute sessions all week, they would have been a lot better off.
Yeah, little and often is the way to do it, I think, isn't it, with mobility?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's something.
Like just consistently.
Sage advice, man. So sleep better, try and get your 8 hours, so kind of 9 hours in bed, aim for that. Up your mobility game, so add like an extra 20 minutes. Stay in the, I love this one, stay in the classes and listen to your coach. Yeah. That's an important one as well.
Absolutely.
And then maybe do your little bit extra, maybe ask the coach and say, hey, coach, what do you think I need to improve on? What could I spend an extra couple of half-hour blocks a week doing? And that would be, that sounds fucking like good advice, Shane.
Yeah,
this is exactly what we've been trying to say to people, over the last while. We're all on the same program now in my gym, so we're kind of trying to practice what we preach. Again, it's very easy to head up into the corner on your own and do your own thing, and it becomes kind of a negative thing. Even though you might be specifically tailored towards you, you're losing out on a lot of the fun stuff about what we do, which is the kind of community element, you know what I mean? So I think that's important.
That kind of competitive aspect is like, you can't, like if everyone's doing the same WOD and you have similar people at similar levels, you can't deny the performance increase you get from trying to compete with those people you're doing it with. Like, so while you might get some more doing your individual program, you make it even more, again, just competing with the lads in the gym, with you.
Yeah, you steel sharpens steel, doesn't it? Especially in a kind of a competitive sport like CrossFit, when it's not like, say weightlifting, you're going out you're lifting against yourself basically. But with something like CrossFit, when you're on the competition floor beside 7 or 8 other people, you can look at them and actually push ahead and get energy off of them. Do you know what I'm saying? I think that's the way it is with that. Yeah, that's good stuff, Gov. I have to ask you another question, buddy. I've been wondering now since, I think around about December 17th, I think I saw the last post from this man. He's a kind of an internet sensation, and I've heard various different rumours. I heard he moved to Brazil to do capoeira from one person. Then I heard from another person that he opened a tech shop over in Tokyo. And I heard from another fella he's down in Africa training people to do weightlifting. Could you tell us where Clarence Kennedy is and if he will ever come back to us on the internet?
He'll be back soon. He has he had some PBs in the snatch clean jerk last year, so I'm sure I think he's gonna put up one of those videos soon. Like they are bigger than these previous PBs, is what I say. They're fucking huge. So he'll be back at some point, but I think at the moment he's just enjoying.
He's taking a break, isn't he?
He's Patreon, he puts up a lot of videos of weekly training, but I think he'll put up. I think he'll put up something soon enough, I'd say.
Okay, we're all looking forward. Shout out to Clarence. If you're listening, Clarence, come back to us. We all miss you. So hopefully, fingers crossed, he's coming back soon. So he's not in any of them countries doing any of that stuff then.
No. He's still
Shout out to Clarence. Hey, Eoin, we had a fantastic chat with you, buddy. I think we could have talked for another hour. Shane is just about to start coaching one of his classes now. I really appreciate you coming on. We might do it again towards the end of the year. I'd love that.
Absolutely.
And before we wrap it up, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
Just best of luck to Fanula, I suppose. I'll be shout out to
shout out to Fanula,
today.
Brilliant. Anyone else? You have to give
no,
you have to give Dara a shout out. You have to give Dara a shout out.
Nah, fuck that. If you're looking for Sika Strength,
Hey, yes. So,
Instagram.
the next thing, where can people find you, and how do they sign up to your program or get advice or whatever it is?
So obviously Sika Strength Instagram, Sika Strength on YouTube, SikaStrength.com, the Sika Strength podcast. It's on Spotify, iTunes, SoundCloud, anywhere you use the podcast. They all get sent out of those. And then if you want to start a program, you can just go straight to the website and buy it. But if you have any issues, or if you're a gym owner or anything like that, if you want to run any, like we do seminars, but we do weightlifting seminars, but we do some kind of athletic performance seminars. We've one in Mayo coming up soon, where we're just helping some like GA athletes and some track and field athletes, and just kind of doing some kind of how to basically a performance increase seminar, just kind of things they can do in the gym and outside the gym.
I didn't know you do seminars. I would definitely be interested in that. I'll private message you after this, and we might try and organise something. That's brilliant, man. Really appreciate that. Okay, Eoin, really appreciate you coming on, man. Thanks very much. Shane, would you like to say goodbye there?
Yeah, thanks, Garth. Thanks for coming on, man. We'd love to have you back at some point. Anyway, we could talk for probably 3 hours, do like a rolling podcast or something.
Yeah, we were kind of skirting through things there, but we got a load of stuff covered. So again, thank you very much, sir, and I'll talk to you soon.
Lovely. Thanks, Dan.
Brilliant. See you later, bro. Boom. That was excellent, wasn't it?
Yeah, lovely one.
Super. Yeah, work away to you. Super smart dude. We got a lot of stuff covered. I felt like we could have talked into many different subjects there for a lot longer.
2 hour one.
2 hour easy. Easy 2 hour. We're trying to keep them shorter, lads, so you guys you won't get bored too much. Yeah. But I'd love to have him on again.
Yeah,
and that's interesting about the seminars as well.
Yeah.
That'd be class to have him and Dara down.
Yeah, be brilliant.
So I think we could do that, maybe the end of the summer or something like that. We'll see, we'll put something together. All right, that's a wrap for episode 18, guys. We'll be back next week with some more fantastic guests. Until then, take it easy.